on the day's top story, government reiterating its commitment to minimizing the impact of the spread of COVID-19. It's announced that prohibition on gatherings of more than 100 people. Here's where it becomes tricky. We're heading into Easter celebrations next month, and a lot of denominations were due to meet in various parts of the country, and now they will have to comply. The expectation is that they will comply with that announcement from government. But not a lot of religious leaders have so far come forward to make such announcements. Let's discuss then with Edward Mafadza. He's CEO of the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities. Quite a mouthful. A very good evening to you, Mr. Mafadza. Thank you so much for being on Nightline. Do you have faith then, as we sit here tonight, that religious leaders across the board will comply with these restrictions announced by government?
Look, deliberations within the religious sector is still taking place around those issues. But really we have all the faith that our religious leaders are quite accountable. They love their people that they are serving in their different religious institutions. And we believe that they will come up with an amicable solution to deal and face the challenge that is facing our country as a whole.
And you know, we're talking about these deliberations that are said to be continuing. Government saying there will be another meeting with the religious leaders later this week. One would imagine that when you hear that we're dealing with a pandemic that's already killed over 6,000 people globally, infections in the country are rising. In the space of 2 weeks or less, we've got plus 60 people who are infected. It should be an easy decision to make.
Well, it is easy, but you should also know that people do prepare for these gatherings well in advance. And so this become something like a shock, as the President actually announced last night, where it will come up with all these measures that the religious community should comply with. So they need to have some time to engage. They need to come up with intervention strategies so that they are able to be in line and align themselves with the pronouncement that the President made last night.
Oh, I had you finished the point, sir. Sorry.
I finished, but I think they need to be given time. And we are happy that on Thursday we understand that they will be engaged.
All right. We're already seeing people on social media, for example, people of a strong faith, if we can call it that tonight, who are saying they view this as some sort of spiritual test for them to defeat. How do you get people who are taking that line to understand the realities of what we're dealing with here in terms of a health crisis?
We encourage them to continue to do the prayers, because we need the divine intervention as a country, as the whole world, in terms of the pandemic, facing all of us. So we encourage them to really go for their prayers. But on the other hand, we should be able to be rational so that we are able to follow the measures that are pronounced that we should follow as a country. And
are you, as the CRL Commission, involved in these ongoing negotiations between the churches and government?
We do serve, as a commission. And by all means, we are an interested group or commission or institution to be part of these negotiations.
In terms of what you can do then in this situation, what are you able to do beyond just encouraging the church and other religious formations to indeed comply with what government outlined on Sunday?
Part of our mandate as a commission is to educate the public, and we have just made a decision this morning that as a commission we will take this message of the President to different corners of the people and communities that we serve in line with our mandate, and make sure that they get the message through the languages that they speak in the local areas, so that we are all aware and we can be more preventative in our engagements in all our endeavors.
And in terms of the churches themselves, that I know the ZCC, for example, has the biggest Easter service. About 3 million people, I was reading, usually attend at this time of year. Would you, as the CRL, reach out to churches like the ZCC to start that conversation outside of the ongoing process with government, for example?
ZCC, we engage with them at all times. And they are very good. They are people who really are willing to cooperate in all areas that we engage with them. So I believe that indeed they will champion the direction in terms of how we should be able to resolve and comply to the pronouncement made by the President.
Would you agree then, Mr. Mafadza, that it would be not only irresponsible but selfish of religious leaders to push ahead with mass gatherings given the pandemic?
I think they will be able to come up with interventions, and we are hopeful that these are responsible leaders. We work with them. These are prayerful people, and we know that with their intervention, we will be able to make a difference.
What happens come Easter and this coming weekend, in fact, because the ban will be in place this coming weekend? What happens to those who do gather with people way past the 100 limit?
It's not a matter of what happens. It's a matter of saying, what is my role in what the country is trying to, eradicate in terms of what is facing us as a country. Everyone should have a role. It's not about who does what and who is going to punish who. It's what is it that I am doing as an institution, as an individual, to make sure that we stop the spread of this virus.
But punishment becomes important, Mr. Mafadza, when people possibly go against the advice of government and gather in large groups and then leave those gatherings, not knowing if they're infected or not, to come and interact with the rest of society where people would have been complying with restrictions.
Why do we start from the negative perspective? I am saying that we are hopeful. We are dealing with religious people here, people who are prayerful. And actually, we are not only concentrating on them, even the cultural groups and also language groups. We are saying these are responsible people, and come Thursday, they will find a solution on how they will deal with this matter.
Well, there are some questionable people. Yes, it's not the overall picture, but you know better than most people what you've been dealing with in the past 5 years alone, people being fed grass and just the extremes that people have gone to in the churches. And that brings me to perhaps my last question about the element of the illegal places of worship in the country and how that poses a particular problem in just the conversation that needs to be had at this time.
Everyone must be involved so that we can find a solution to the challenge.
How do you approach those then?
They need to, like I said, more education, open up our hands to invite them to be part of the negotiations, then they must be part of the solution.
Mr. Mafadza, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
That was Edward Mafadza, CEO of the CRL Rights Commission.